All right, we're live. That's it. That's simple as
Hello.
that. Hey, Alicia,
It's good to see
thanks
you
for
again.
joining. I know it's been a while. You've
It
been
has.
traveling around, and I can't keep track of you anymore.
I can't keep track of myself these days. So I
Uh,
literally look at the balcony the other day and I was like, where am I? I don't I don't know where I am sometimes, which is
yeah,
ridiculous, but here we are.
yeah. But this is your first time on the Sunday draft, though, right?
Yeah.
You and
Last
I
one we were
talked.
just on Substack.
Yeah, and this is also on Substack, by the way. But this time, this is the first time inaugural episode going live on YouTube is what's happening.
Okay. Sorry, I
Probably on
have like
Instagram too.
glare on my
That's fine. Yeah, so probably on Instagram as well, and then so I'm trying this new multi-channel streaming, and you are
okay.
again the guinea pig.
It's my favorite thing to be, I guess.
No, thank you for joining so much.
Yeah.
This marks the 1 month anniversary almost of our podcast launching. Um,
Okay.
but my co-host, who's regular, and you've seen him. His name is Kanti. He was not able to join us today, basically because he's not well. So he's under the weather.
Oh.
So I had to make a last minute decision to find somebody who can help me get through this 1 month anniversary episode, and that is you.
Well, here we are. Well, I hope he gets better soon. That's unfortunate.
Yeah, he should be back hopefully next week, back to regular programming. But it's a good time to kind of reflect back on what we have done so far. The
Hmm.
story so far is what uh, I wanted to talk to you about today. Actually, I'm on the interview. I'm in the hot seat today, and you're going to ask me what I did.
Yes, we are flipping the tables.
Yeah, pretty much like what am I doing with all this is like really your question. But before that, you're in Italy right now, so I had to track you down. Like, where in the world is Alicia right now? And you're
I'm
in it
I'm almost in Italy. I'm
almost.
across the water in Albania. We've been here for a month, but we ferry over, so we'll be in Italy starting tomorrow.
Okay, awesome. Italy is my wife's, we our favorite destination. We've been there in 2015, which was pre-pandemic, but most favorite place, most amazing time that we've had traveling outside of the US. I mean, Italy's ranks right on top.
There is a lot of great things to see in Italy. It's people's favorite for a reason, right? I was there first like 20 years ago, and then I went back in 2019 with my kid and saw Venice. So I've seen Rome, I've seen Venice, I've seen those parts. I'll see some new stuff this time. We're gonna cross over on ferry and end up in the heel of the boot, so that'll be
Yeah.
new. But it's just gonna be a short trip. We're gonna just kind of transit across before flying out because we're low on Schengen visa days and we're heading
Oh
back to the
yeah.
US. So
Yeah, I remember we
we're
had to
just
apply for that extra visa to get to Italy. Yeah.
well, it doesn't need an extra one now for us. It's part of the Schengen zone, which you can only do 90 days in those Schengen countries, and you have to calculate it and not overstay your welcome. So
Yeah.
we've been doing a lot of Europe, so we're low on time, but at least
Yeah.
I'll get a little good Italian food before we leave.
Oh yeah, amazing. And again, just for the audience who's joining in today, you're a globetrotter, right? You basically house sit across the world and travel. You've been traveling for so long now, 2 3 years now, right? I mean, just doing
It's
this
yeah,
thing.
we're coming up on 3 years next month, so it's been a while.
Wow,
It's
wow.
it's been interesting.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. I'm always in awe just seeing you and your post, and you've been regularly posting on Substack. That's amazing. You've been
I'm
regularly.
trying.
Yeah,
I'm trying to keep up with it. I'm doing better on notes right now than I am on big posts, but
yeah.
I'm working on it. It's nobody's, you know, it's just my little project. Nobody's depending on it. It's just something I think is fun to share and,
Yeah.
you know, so
And your globetrotting is really one of the reasons I thought you were the best person today to talk about what we've been up to on the Sunday draft, because the Sunday
Okay.
draft goes into geopolitics and
Yes.
stuff like that. And who best to react to what's happening today, except but for the one who is actually traveling the world and probably hearing reactions from across the world about what's happening.
You do you do hear some things. You get a lot of questions,
Yeah,
people you meet in different places ask you, especially if they know you're from the US, they ask you your opinion on things and it is what it is, but we also are part of a travel group online with other people that do this, and you hear rumors about, like, before we came here to Albania, I heard somebody saying that people in Albania were really upset with Americans and starting to treat us poorly, and we have not had that experience at all, so like
yeah.
it's a way to kind of combat some misinformation when you are out there and experiencing it in real life. So yeah, I'm glad we came. We were originally talking about should we change plans since things kind of went awry in the world, but we're sticking with it for now, and so far so good.
That's great. I mean, you make an interesting point, right? Because one of the reasons, the core concepts, and we'll get into this shortly with you questioning me about what the Sunday draft is about, but really, you just talked about the essence of it. What people hear about what's happening around the world is so different from what's being portrayed in the media, especially in the U.S. media.
Hmm.
So, and we've seen that now with the war going on, this ongoing war, never-ending war. It seems like, when you hear other news and other places, what they broadcast is very different from what we hear. So it's almost like, the news is contained by the mainstream media. So independent podcasters are doing the job to source this
Yes.
information from a lot of places. So, and those kind of reactions from on the ground, like in Albania or wherever, right? I mean, I would think you're the best person. You should get into podcasting politics, because you're right on the ground. You're a journalist. You're almost like a person on the move. You know. Uh,
I don't feel well versed enough in it to do anything like that.
yeah,
And there's a lot of really amazing people that are, luckily. So it's
yeah,
nice to have that these days, because, like you said, you can't really trust a lot of media these days. So
yeah.
I'm sure we all have our people we like to listen to, and you have to take in a little bit from both sides and process it and try to figure out what's really happening out there, right?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. All right, so let's get into it, because that's really,
Okay.
we'll get more into it. I'm going to take the hot seat now. You're going to ask me what the hell have I been doing for 1 month.
Yes.
Me and Kanti, like what have we been up to? What is the Sunday draft? So take it away, and I'll do my best to tell
Okay.
you what.
I I want to start with, kind of talking about the origin and vision of this. Where
Yeah,
did the name the Sunday Draft come from?
yeah. So great start, right? Because the Sunday draft. The I was meeting a lot of people on Substack Live, and you were the first one that I met late in December. And then I started doing these Substack Live just to get comfortable with video, just to get comfortable talking to people. And then towards the beginning of this year, I met somebody. His name is Kanti. He's my co-host
Hmm.
on a different channel, and um, I always wanted to do something like this. I wanted a podcast, but I didn't know who to do it with. I was always trying to figure out, who will actually be crazy enough to join me on this. Uh, so, and then I found the person, and that was Kanti. And it turns out he's a former journalist, and
Okay.
so he basically have a long career in journalism, especially in India. He won a lot of awards, and then he went on to actually be the comms specialist for WHO. So he's got this. He had this long stint in Germany where he worked for the WHO, built their first Facebook page. So he's got a lot of this experience, and he loved to write. And so I asked him, just like I asked you one day, hey, why don't we start a podcast? And then he was gracious enough to say yes, right? And
Nice.
that's how I found the right person, because I always wanted to be a journalist. I ended up being a geek, turns out he wanted to be a geek and became a journalist instead. So we kind of, you know, paired well, I think. And he loved to write. He likes to share. I just had to kind of tell him what the vision was of the Sunday draft, because it is. I wanted to get into stories that don't get enough visibility, or like we said, mainstream media just glosses over it. So I wanted to pick those
Yeah,
stories
there's a
and
lot
not.
of that going on.
Yeah, so the Sunday Draft is very focused on that to kind of bring new perspectives. You know, these are stories most people either haven't even heard about, right, or just it came as a blip and went off. And we'll talk about some of those episodes we did, but and he bought into it, and he also wanted to get into podcasting. So it was just kind of a match that was perfect, you know, the right time. And then we began podcasting in March. So that is really the vision. So bringing new perspectives on stories, not only from the US, but I bring the US perspective. He brings the India perspective. We both have a world view of things, and so we are able to kind of tap into those things. And 1 month in, we've been able to kind of sample some of that.
Yeah, I think that, from the topics I've seen so far, you really are kind of pulling in things that
Yeah,
you're not hearing about elsewhere, right?
yeah,
And I like that. I was sitting here trying to remember when I was thinking about doing this, the story that I read of yours that first introduced me to you. And I remember it. I don't remember like the specific subject, unfortunately, but I remember it being like, wow, that's something I've never really thought about or had presented in this way. And I was like, I really like this guy's take on it. And it was just kind of refreshing. And so I was like, instant follow. And here we are.
no, thank you.
And now you're
Yeah,
doing this and taking it to a whole nother level. And I like that.
yeah, I appreciate that. You know, yeah, we've been Substack friends for a while, and I've seen your growth, and you've seen how I've been trying to kind of do different things and try to. I mean, it's hard to kind of get people's attention these days, right? I mean, just to
Yeah.
get people to even follow you or even tune into you, it's very hard because so much out there. And
Hmm.
so, you know, it's a tough market to break in, but I find it fun. So I just want to have fun with it. We don't
Yeah.
really.
And
Yeah,
I think that's the thing is if you're enjoying it and you're talking about what you want to talk about and talking to people you want to talk to, that's what matters. Like it's not necessarily a numbers game. It's having people who want to be there with you, right?
yeah,
No matter if it's a small number of people or a huge number of people. That's
yeah.
the way I see it anyway. So
No, no, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. All right. I passed the first
I
question. All right.
I don't know if it's
Getting
a
warmed up.
pass, but
But for me, it's a pass. Like, I've never been interviewed this way, so that's good.
um, is there is there a reason that it's like Sunday specifically?
Yeah. So, yeah, I didn't really talk about the name. So we were debating on so many names, and it's just hard to find a good name that actually has all the social media handles available. Everybody's bought this real
Right.
estate online, and my wife knows that I am always like stuck on the name. I can't do anything with the name without the name being right. And so Kanti and I went through so many iterations of things. The word draft was important for us because we write a lot of stories, and we put a lot of stuff in draft mode, right? We don't really publish it because we have these thoughts, whether it's journaling or notes or whatever it is, right? We have so many things in draft mode. It never gets into a conversation mode, right? So the draft mode to the podcast live conversation mode, it was a kind of a theme, kind of a thing we wanted to bring in, because what we are thinking about is in the draft. It's not polished. It's not the perfect version you want to publish, but it is a conversation starter, right? So that's really where the draft comes in. So we want to start,
Okay.
bring all those stories out, start a conversation between us, and then maybe bring in people, right? And Sundays, it just came out. We were thinking about all these different combinations, and the Sunday draft was available. Now in the US, the Sunday draft has a different connotation, right? It talks
Right. It's
about
very
football.
sports focused.
Yeah, which we thought, okay, would that be detrimental? But people know about it. It's a combination of words that people, at least in the US, know about it. But across the world, they don't really know much about that. But we wanted to bring in the fact that Sundays is a leisurely conversation. So taking the conversation aspect, having a leisurely tone to it, and then we talked about the what we grew up with. And I don't know if this is your experience, but especially in India, you would basically see elders sitting outside with a newspaper on Sundays. I've seen my grandfather do that. Kanti had a similar experience. He had seen his dad do that, and that was a actual newspaper and sitting on a Sunday. I don't know if that was a Sunday thing on in the US, because I didn't grow up here, but the whole concept of just leisurely with a cup of tea, sitting outside, reading the newspaper on a Sunday was the thing that we always kind of watched. Our elders, I can't even say my parents anymore. They're on WhatsApp, so they don't look at anything. But I had seen that as a kid, and so we wanted to bring that aspect to it. It's a Sunday, it's
Okay. Yeah.
leisurely. We're looking at the news, glossing over the main headlines, talking about some important things, having a conversation over tea, that kind of concept. So we wanted to kind of Sunday becomes a leisurely aspect to it. That this is not something that serious. I mean, but we want to kind of give you. It also gives us the kind of ability to be a little raw, because we are still getting used to
Right.
this. We're not that polished, so we make mistakes. So the Sunday aspect is, hey, it's a Sunday. Let us make those mistakes.
Right. I like that. That makes
Yeah,
sense.
yeah,
I was thinking we could talk a little bit about kind of your format and some of your philosophy,
yeah,
if you're interested. Okay.
yeah.
Um, when you're thinking of what to talk about on your next episode, kind of how do you decide what makes a topic worthy?
Yeah, good question. Yeah, it's the most struggling part about running a podcast, especially when it's just a two-man team, right? We have a
Hmm.
lot to do, but the fact that we are both interested in writing and structure. We think of, like me and myself and my co-host Kanti. We really care about how we deliver the message. So we started off by
Okay.
taking and putting a structure together, and made a list of all the topics that both of us had in our mind. So he had a bunch of them, I had a bunch of them, and we kind of put it all together and said, okay, what can we talk about first? It turns out that's not the first one we talked about, but that's just because suddenly something came up that we knew it wasn't getting enough airtime. So we picked a topic that was unknown but is very important. So we made a list, and then we said, okay, we'll work on that list. But if something comes up that week that we think is more important, we'll just bump it up. But we had
Okay.
the structure already lined out. Who opens what, who's the opener, how's the body going to be, how are these sections going to be. So we had our cues. We practiced a little bit on that, but at the same time we also wanted to keep it fluid, just like this conversation. And so the format was important from that aspect, that we both were new to this, but we wanted to bring a structure. But the topics really played into the topic of the week. If it turns out that that's something we want to talk about, or we'll pick something from our list and kind of work on it. At this stage
And
we
maybe
are at
if like
least, yeah,
something kind of happens in the meantime, you can
yeah, we can
adjust
bump it up.
and
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, the good thing about
Okay.
geopolitics this time is there's so much happening, and a lot of
Every
our
day.
everything is like interconnected, right? So we tend to see a lot of those similarities. Like we might have a topic that we wanted to talk about, let's say on the future of journalism, but instead of
Mhm.
picking that up, we might have a news event that actually happens that's tied to journalism,
Right.
and there's a lot of that happening right now. So we kind of are able to kind of mix and match a little bit, and then kind of bring some aspect of what we had already planned, bring it to the current event, keep it like live and current for the audience to be able to connect to quickly. So like the
Right.
ICE detention story was something like that. We had that in the
Yes.
works. Something happened that came in my news feed, and then I said, okay, let's talk about this. The other part, last thing I'll say, is the beauty of myself and Kanti going is both of us are inquisitive about what's happening in that week. I'm inquisitive, I'm really curious about what's happening in India. he really wants to know what's happening in this. So we kind of bring these two different world, uh, events that are happening and kind of bridge it together.
Nice.
Yeah.
In this journey that you've been on with this, like, what have you learned about podcasting so far?
It's not easy.
Shocking.
Yeah, and it's not, but the important thing is to get started. So I think we crossed that bridge. But there's a lot that goes in. Like this episode is the first one I'm using a software that is making it easier for me to kind of bring in, banners like this that come on screen
Oh, okay.
that adds value. So we had to finally invest in something that is more professional, because the first
Okay.
month it was very difficult on Substack, the technical issues, and that makes editing so much more difficult. And then we don't have anybody else. So myself and Kanti are the ones who have to do this. So if we record it on a Sunday, if it's an offline episode, then on a Saturday, then Sunday we have to go live with it. We have hardly a day to edit. So
Yeah.
the hard part is really the editing, because we are not polished enough to kind of say that we can just click live, and let it go. But we started doing that as well. We started being a little more relaxed in terms of not being so critical about our own things, because when you go into editing mode, and this with writing, you end up just cutting a lot of stuff. And when
Yeah.
you're like me, like I see myself talking, I don't like it. So I hate to see myself talking after the fact, right? I don't like to go back and see myself. So that's one of those things.
There's a reason I'm never in my own photos, so I get it.
Yeah, and I had to pull you into this live. So anyway, you're doing great.
Well,
um
thank you.
Yeah. The other thing I'll say is, it's good to have people who are able to support you on this. So my wife is a big support. Kanti has his
That's always
family who's a big
helpful.
support. Kanti's daughter actually reviews stuff. So, and then we have a lot of friends who, and people like you who are on Substack, followers and subscribers who are basically, out to let us know. So that support means a lot to us, just to make sure that we, even though we are critical of us, when we hear a good comment, then it's all worth it, even if it's one comment. Now, on the one more thing I'll say is, on YouTube, what I've learned is the comments tend to come from trolls to begin with.
Ugh,
you know,
they're
uh,
everywhere.
yeah, which is
It's so terrible.
yeah, which is another thing I'm trying to tune out, because you I've seen, especially with YouTube, like a lot of likes come in to our episodes, right? So many people liking it, but the people who like it, right, click that like button, are not putting a comment in. Their uh, you know um, involvement is as good as a like. And but
It's
the
easy to
people who
get in
don't,
that
yeah,
habit of, oh,
yeah,
read like,
but
and
it kind of
it
works
takes.
against you when you're small, when you're starting small, because
Yeah,
you have a lot of likes, but then the comment that is coming in is the one who had something critical to say. And critical to say, critical, if they're critical, I'm okay with it, right? But then it's the trolls who basically just, especially within this politics, you get all of these MAGA people or something like that. I mean, that's
yeah,
going to be, um, that's where the comments come in. I wish all the people who like say at least one nice thing, so that the comment feed is not just that person on top. you know but
yeah.
that's a
I get that.
YouTube thing. It's a YouTube thing. We have to get used to it. I mean, if we shy away because of that, then we're not going to be able to do anything.
It's starting to happen on Substack too.
Really?
There's,
No.
yeah, I actually just saw a thing yesterday, like a few days back. Somebody had made a post that was really interesting, and it kind of gave a negative opinion of their time visiting Fez in Morocco.
Hmm.
And I had a completely different experience they did, and I did a comment about it, and we kind of chatted back and forth on it. And then yesterday, all of a sudden, he posts like his article kind of blew up, and along with that, he got all kinds of trolling comments, and he's like, this is just not what I envisioned
Yeah.
for wanting to write about things. So it's unfortunately out there everywhere, and just think, if you want to be doing this, it's something you got to learn to deal with. And
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe go and block the really bad ones, right? Because
Yeah,
What's the point?
I do that. Yeah, if it's a really bad one, then I'm just gonna delete it. And YouTube, I think a lot of people do
Yeah.
that. But it's I just hope more people who are liking it say something nice. Just put on a line, because that kind of helps the as this gets, YouTube kind of looks at that. But it's a growing pain with YouTube, and now
Yeah.
that we're on YouTube and Substack, and we're trying to do all these channels at once, we're going to get a lot of that, and that's fine. We're
Yeah.
trying to
It's a
be
good message
unbiased.
to put out there, though. Like, put the good stuff in the comments too. Don't just let the trolls run the
Yeah.
conversation, right?
Exactly. And it comes with time when you become really popular. Like on YouTube, I've seen the most popular ones, and popular doesn't have to be like, top 15 or anything like that. But when you get a good audience who's always engaged, I think that'll automatically,
Yeah.
come in, because the fact of the matter is there's less MAGA out there than non-MAGA. That's a fact, right? There's not a lot
Yeah. A
of
lot of
support.
the a lot of the responses you see in that vein are bots from what they
Yeah,
say,
and
right?
probably bots. Yeah, and then so the fact of the matter is there are more people who are aligned with what we are thinking about. When we ask these questions about politics or immigration or things like that, there are more people who are aligned. They're not the most vocal. That's the only issue. So it comes in time, and we've got to be
Yeah.
vocal. I think that's another thing. I try to you got to be vocal about what we feel.
Yeah. I agree. I think a lot of it's just the differing personalities, and that's kind of what makes people go down that road versus the other anyway. So it's just some people are more bold, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Can
All right.
we talk about some of the episodes so far that you've done?
Yes, yes. Yeah.
Okay. Um, there was one in particular, well, multiple, I guess, but one that really kind of struck me and hit me hard. And, my sister's a teacher and I have friends that are teachers and all of that. And so you did a post about 46 million children in India that are basically invisible to the education system.
Yeah.
And like that, like not only does it kind of just tug at your heartstrings as a human, but it's just like I had no idea. And that just blew my mind. And how do you
Yeah.
find that story? And
Yeah.
you know, how do you make people care? And I went and through that, and then I looked up the organization, and went kind of down this rabbit hole, and was like, wow. So
No, I'm glad you did that. Hopefully, Raman, who is the person we interviewed on that episode, hopefully he'll watch this, and that's definitely encouraging for people like him who are very unique, because you don't find those kind of people. And now, how I found him, it was just fluke. I mean, I believe in the fact that when you start something, these stories will start coming in. It's almost like you're tuning into the right frequency, and then somehow the world kind of tells you, these are the stories. Because I didn't know anything about it until we were planning an episode. My cousin sister in India, she works also in the same, trying to for a nonprofit, a bigger one, that is actually trying to do the same thing, help educate those kids in India. So she's doing the same thing, and she sent a message to me saying that, hey, there's this guy who has got his own nonprofit. It's doing really well, but anything I can do to promote him or talk to him would be great. So I reached out to him, and we scheduled the episode. But
okay.
and when Kanti and I talked to him, I mean, like you probably felt, I mean, we didn't know the magnitude of this. So the 46 million children in India who are not able to get education because they're either migrant workers who are not, families of migrants, who are just traveling around. The kids are just out of that school system. And India
Hmm.
is a big country with a lot of population, but 46 million
Yes,
is still too
it's a
much of a
huge number.
number, even for a populated country like ours, right?
Yeah, when
Um,
like if you really think about it, like one is too many, right? But 46 million, that's just
yeah,
like
yeah,
it's unimaginable. It's
yeah,
crazy.
yeah.
And
So
reading something like that, I think, or hearing something like that with me, and with all the other things going on in the world, it kind of resonates. And like, is that where we're headed if
hmm,
things don't change? Like it just kind of puts everything into perspective too. Like
yeah.
how does a problem get that big, you know?
Yeah, how does it get that big? And then again, obviously there is some level of you know the system failing to address that in time, that it becomes a huge number. So to your question, will we face it in the US or other places, across the world? Yeah, I mean, if the chaos continues, and politicians and governments and everybody's focused on the next big thing like AI, and or creating wars, just for their own benefit. Yeah, these kind of topics, issues go unaddressed, right?
Hmm.
Um, just because nobody's really putting money on it, and so yeah, so it is a problem that could happen anywhere. But when you
Absolutely.
talk, yeah,
And I think that kind of changing it a little bit, but kind of related on the topic, you talked about um, children and social media and AI, and you really kind of did a
yeah.
deep dive into it, right? So, like, you turned it into a series, and I'm just kind of wondering, like, it's tied it to the anxiety epidemic and what people can do to help and all that. Like,
Yeah.
how did you realize that this kind of one conversation wasn't enough for that subject?
Yeah, so yeah, and that one, Kanti brought that topic in. He had a child psychologist who he wanted to bring on board, and we were just lucky to kind of pair the episode that aired with the 46 million issue with the other side of the coin, where now here's a situation where you have kids who are educated. Education is not the
Mhm.
problem, but then what's happening to them is this addiction to social media. So again, and that is already a worldwide problem. It is almost an
Yes.
epidemic. I mean, even though we're not calling it probably an epidemic, but it is surely showing all the signs of an epidemic. Whether it's US or India or anywhere for that matter, we're all addicted to the phones, and we've got to be worried about the kids who are being depressed because of it, has anxiety problems. So when we talked to this, child psychologist, she was able to bring in a perspective of what she's struggling with on the front lines. When parents come
Hmm.
to her and say, my child, I can't, I don't know what to do with my child who's always addicted to the phone or the tablet, and they cause that
It's
problem in a
it's
way.
hard as a parent,
Yeah, but
especially since most adults are struggling with it themselves, right? Like,
yeah,
how do you tell a kid they can't do
yeah,
something that you're showing them to do, right?
yeah.
It's wild.
Yeah. So while the 46 million issue is one of those things we all have to keep in mind, and we've got to help people like Raman or the Learning Initiatives of India and other organizations similar to his to kind of help, whether it's support, publicity or funding. While we tackle that problem on one side, it's very important to also keep an eye on the real problems that happen with the social media and AI and everything with respect to children. So we made it a series, and we want to kind of, because that's a real problem everybody's facing today. And as more children hopefully get educated, we don't want them to follow the same path. So maybe there's a system in place. Again, these are the conversations we want to have with whoever is listening, to make sure that everything is interrelated. And when you look at a child's growth, whether it's from education perspective or mental health, we
Mhm.
have to look at all of it in one strain.
Do you kind of have any idea how long this series is going to run, or is it just kind of another, it's going to do what it does?
Yeah, see, I'm glad you asked that, because I'm very cognizant of the fact that we talk about these stories and then it kind of dies out, right? And
Right.
like I said in the beginning, the Sunday draft is the core belief, or the principle behind it is that we will not let these stories go, right?
Hmm.
We will continue to bring these back, and so making things a series is really a way to kind of help with that. And we also got the child psychologist to come and do an AMA with us every month. So that is
Oh, okay.
another way in which we are trying to keep the conversation going. So the child psychologist Twarita, she as she sees more issues coming up in her sessions, we want her to have a seat at the table every month, come in, check in with us. We'll collect questions from families and whoever wants to talk about children's social media and AI, tablet addiction, and bring those stories or questions to her, and then have her answer it live. So we are trying to
Awesome.
figure all that out. Yeah, and we might do the same
Okay.
thing with the education. We just have to make sure that we can keep the conversation going.
Yeah, for sure. And then, like the most recent story that I noticed felt kind of like you shifted a little bit, and it was this the Meenu Batra case, and to me, it felt like, oh, okay, like you're kind of serious getting into like this is
Yeah.
today's politics. And so I was kind of wondering, like, is that you're just heading in that direction now, or is this just another thing that came across the?
Yeah. No, it's a good question. Right? So yeah, it just came across, like you said, right? There was another episode we did. Our opening episode really was about this guy, similar kind of situation, not ICE detention, but what happens in India is like this whole
Hmm.
Hindu Muslim kind of conflict and ideology issues that break out into communal issues that we see a lot in the northern parts of India, and that particular episode was our first one we did. Um, so it was kind of a politically charged current level topic, and the 1 month ends with the Meenu Batra case, which is also a politically charged case in the
Yeah,
US. So both are Indians, from that perspective. So there is that similarity that it is still of people of Indian origin,
hmm,
but the politics of it show what India is really grappling with and what the US is grappling with. And what the US is grappling with right now, and that does not get enough airtime, is the immigration and ICE detention issues. So
absolutely.
when this kind of came as a blip on my podcast feeds that I watch, I had to talk about it, right? Because yes, we want to talk about real issues that are about children and mental health and education and all that, but we can't. Again, as I said, everything is interrelated, right? If you have a chaotic world because of all these problems that are happening, people are
Hmm.
not focused on the right thing. So if we need to bring focus to the series like a child's mental health, how do people do that when all this chaos is going on, right? So we have to set aside and talk about this noise that's happening, talk about this
Yes.
real issue that is happening on a day-to-day basis, right? The Iran war, the immigration crisis, the Hindu Muslim conflict, or ideological issues in India, the communal issues because of that. All this are the noise and stuff that prevents us from focusing on the right thing. So in a way, you know we are trying to showcase, here's all these other things that we need to talk about. We need to understand it, put it out of our mind, don't get distracted by them, but understand them, support them, but in order for us to focus on the real issues as people, what we grapple with on a daily basis, uh, we can't ignore what's happening in the world.
It kind of feels, looking across all of that, like there's like this invisible thread you're following.
Yeah, yeah,
Is
that's a good way
there?
to put it. Not intentionally, but I think there is, like, if you see it as the audience, right? If you see it,
Hmm.
then obviously, we are unintentionally stringing that we are basically stringing that thread. um, you know uh, it's too early to say which direction we want to go. I am very passionate about the immigration issue, so I do want to find more cases like that in the US, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Kanti
There's
is, yeah,
no shortage of them, I'm sure.
yeah. Kanti is very passionate about what's happening in India with this, the communal issues. He's living that on a daily basis because this issue that we
Hmm.
talked about for called, titled Mohammed Deepak, um, that is happening in his state. He's living
Oh,
that daily, right?
yeah.
And I could argue that the immigration issue is happening in my state, in any state, really, in the
Hmm.
US, like in Tennessee, it's happening, right? So these are real problems that are happening. So we are very passionate about these things. So, but whether it becomes a continuous thread depends on how accessible those stories are to us, because a lot of those get buried in the news, right?
Yeah.
The
It's
like how
it's
many,
easy for things to get buried when there's so
yeah,
many things just coming at you every day.
yeah. So we don't have those sources like the bigger media channels or the bigger podcasters to kind of know what's happening. So until we build that, I can't say that the communal issues in India is something that we will always talk about. But immigration, there's enough out there that we can try and bring those stories to light every month, at least one episode on immigration,
Yeah.
continuous AMA on child health and education. And then, there's more happening out there, right? I mean, we want to talk about everything that affects the common person, you know?
Okay. Is there one particular moment from any of your episodes that kind of changed how you see something or was really impactful for you?
Yeah, I think, for me, I think the Meenu Batra case was the most impactful, mainly because it was the last one that I've been working on and researching on. I didn't know so much about what is going on with ICE detentions that, until I started researching this. Like the number of
Yeah,
facilities they're trying to open up, right? I just wrote a post on Substack last week. It's just
it's
mind-boggling
scary.
and
Yeah,
scary
it's
that they're converting all these warehouses in the US, and they're like, 15 to 20 that they have identified that they're going to convert into ICE detention centers, right? So there is an active amount of, I guess, the active effort by the Republican Party, like the current, to do that. And they just passed they didn't even, although the Democrats in the US are against that or trying to put some control around it, the ruling Republican Party, right, the Trump administration found a way to fund all these warehouses and all these ICE detentions. So for me, the moment that really stood out for me, because it's so raw, is the fact that until you start peeling the layers of an issue and you start researching it, you don't
mhm.
see all the little things that they're doing, because they're not trying, nobody's reporting it, especially when the main news media is also being controlled by distractions. And why did we go
Yep.
to war with Iran? Right? There was no need to. But now that's all we talked about for the last 2 months, right? We don't talk about ICE
Yeah, what
detentions
are
anymore.
yeah, they're hiding one thing with another thing that's also no good, which is
Yeah.
terrible.
So
But
so for me, like, I mean, every time, everything I'm learning about ICE detentions and what they're trying to do is been an eye opener, and which is why I'm becoming more and more. Maybe that invisible thread is really becoming more visible when it comes to the ICE
yeah,
detentions for me, because the more I talk about it, and you can see that I'm probably passionate about uncovering more of the truth behind it.
I think it's something that everybody should be passionate about. I mean, it's very important and it needs to be talked more by
Yeah,
everybody, right?
yeah,
But maybe that's one invisible thread and maybe there's multiple threads that you just weave together to
yeah.
become this show, right? And
Yeah, that's the hope. That we also want to make sure that we don't weave too many together, that we kind of lose
sure,
it becomes so
you still
confusing.
need to focus.
Yeah, yeah. So, and that's a learning process, right? We're only 1 month in. We're still
Yes.
trying to figure out what our connective tissue is, right? And that
Mhm.
comes with after talking about a lot of stories.
Yeah. So being 1 month in, let's talk about the journey a little bit.
Yeah.
What's been harder than you expected, and also what's been easier.
The the harder part is really finding time to do the research, right?
Hmm.
Especially when you have a full-time job, and you're trying to do this on the side, um, um making a lot of time on the weekends to do the actual producing of it, and editing of it. There's so much of time that goes in, so the harder part is really trying to get into that groove wherein it is all easy, which is why investing in a software like this that helps, you know
Yeah.
broadcast this easily across platforms.
It's where
That
that
saves
family
me.
support comes in handy too.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And then so that's the harder part. I would say time is the biggest issue. Because if we had time, we could research more, we could bring more perspectives. The second thing really is to find more people to join us, right? So we are trying to figure out guests for the show who can
Okay.
come in on a regular. So signing up, I would say signing up. I know that's a very formal way, but then for the child psychologist Vanita to actually be gracious enough to say yes, you know,
Yeah.
to a monthly AMA spot. Those kind of things are like from a format perspective, we are trying to identify people, and you are on the cards too, where I'm trying to make sure that you have a regular spot to come and talk about what the world is doing. Maybe just throwing it out there.
Okay.
So
Good to know.
yeah. So that was on record. So you know, um, but that's part of the format. The format is to kind of bring. It's not just me and Kanti talking. We kind of bring
Mm.
more perspective. Like we get a round table someday, panel discussions, right? As we
Yeah,
get
well,
mature in this.
and also the more people you are able to talk to and bring in, you're opening it up to a wider audience, right? Because those people have an audience that now know about you, and
Yeah.
it just kind of works that way. Um, you mentioned earlier, kind of this in the context of media. You're you're making this an independent show, and what does independence mean to you?
Um, independence to me, and independent podcasting is a thing right now, right? I mean, you can
Hmm.
everybody's an independent podcaster. Anybody with even one subscriber is an
Right?
independent podcaster,
Yeah.
really. But independence to me really means the ability to share what we are thinking about, the perspectives that we all commonly share, but the independence really to kind of talk about it live, right? I mean, lot of people are scared today to talk their
That's true.
minds, and maybe this is something that happened, you know, 8 years ago, or or maybe with COVID. I don't know. There was a shift in people, even family members, not able to see eye to eye in
Hmm.
things, right? I mean, we always had differing opinions, but if you look at any family or friends, we don't want to openly talk about things, So with this, with the podcast, I'm coming out here raw, like my mind, I am sharing what I think, and I want more people to be able to see this as a way forward to have honest, open, honest conversations without being, too overly trollish, or our biases are there. It'll come out, one way or the other. But the best thing about biases is that it is changing. With information, the biases take shape into something new, right? So we might tilt our biases to another side, or we like what's happening right now is everybody's almost coming to the center, right? I talked about this
Hmm.
whole centrist movement of sorts, where the left and the right are kind of too polarized, that everybody who want to see change are coming to the center.
Yeah, I mean,
So
you have to. It's
yeah,
the only way forward in some aspect,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, so to me, that is the meaning. That is a definition of independent podcasting, is really being in the center, being able to talk both sides of the story, and having an open and honest conversation, and a healthy debate on what we
Yes.
think, so that we both kind of know what the audience and the host kind of get to share, thoughts and experiences and perspectives. So that's really what
Speak,
independence means. Yeah.
speaking of your audience, has there has the response you've gotten from your audience taught you anything about what people are looking for in a show like this?
Yeah. So, the trolls I mentioned earlier,
Yes.
every time somebody trolls me, I know, okay, I got to talk about that topic even more.
Oh, that
So,
makes sense.
because,
Yeah.
yeah, and I researched this a little bit, and I think my wife, who watches, and who listens to a lot more podcasts, and especially on YouTube, and watches it, she talks about, that's a good thing because that means you're hitting a nerve, right?
Yeah, you're tugging the right thread then, right?
So, and that needs to be talked about more, because I still have, like I said in the beginning, like more likes on that post. The one troll, and the troll, what they're trolling about, they don't like, maybe a small snippet of what I said. I mean, they missed the whole point, by the way. But then they picked, it was the whole thing was the crux of the issue they missed, but then they tug on a little thing that they are very, critical about. And so I decided, I'm going to talk more about that, right? The immigration thread is one of those things.
Okay.
So it's really listening to that. And then obviously the supporters, I want to listen to them, to know how we are doing, what can we do better? Like, we want to be open to feedback as much as, as much as they want to give us. So, because we won't grow otherwise. So from our supporters, we
Yeah,
just
for sure.
hope that they will give us more encouraging comments and constructive criticism, so that we can do better at this.
Noted.
Thank you.
I will do better about commenting instead of just liking.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so thinking about all of this, a month in, where do you see the Sunday draft in a year from now? Not maybe not just numbers, but like
Yeah.
what it's meaning to the community.
Yeah. I mean, I'm trying to get to month 2 anniversary. so, so I don't know. The year
Short-term
is,
goals.
yeah, short-term goals. But a year from now, I hope myself and Kanti are still, having fun with this. We have a lot more guests on the show. We have regular people who come in, like you, who would talk about what what's happening. I mean, it's really like when I started those Substack lives late December, and I wanted to talk to a lot of people who I really connected with on Substack. It was just really trying to meet friends, people who, and we
Mhm.
all have our own different thinking and perspectives,
Yeah.
but the ability to come together and talk about it is something that, again, as I said, it's lost these days. Nobody does that anymore,
Yes.
and we are not strangers anymore because we are connected, right? So we've been following each other and connecting. So I want, a year from now, that's the really ambition. Like, I have a community of people who are associated with the Sunday draft, friends and family, and people who are just tuning in every Sunday to see what we're going to talk about, get an update on the story that we had aired before. Just that would be great. Um, you
Okay.
know, but next month, by or this month, for the next 5 weeks or 4 weeks, we really have a lot planned. There's going to be a big focus on journalism, or like what journalism even means this in this age and time, right?
Okay.
We're going to talk about more immigration stories. We'll have our child psychologist coming in for Q&A. So hopefully we'll be able to source a lot of questions from our people, by the end of the month. So ability to get her enough to chat about. So those are some of the things, and we've got a couple of other episodes we've planned. We're just trying to outline the right guests. But we've got a few stories that we really want to bring to light that nobody's talking about.
Well, you did mention something earlier about perhaps, working with me a little more. And I might have a little thread for you to pull on too. So we'll have
Yeah,
to talk. And maybe I've got some episodes for you.
absolutely, and a regular seat, because once you get on the seat, especially live, right? That just means that your seat is set for you, reserved for you. It's like sitting at a coffee shop. Like, I love going to coffee shops, sitting at the bar
Me
counter,
too.
and I know you're a coffee snob just like me. But my regular coffee shops, and I would go there. I would, remember those shows like the Cheers and all these old shows where you go to the bar and
Mhm.
you always know, you almost have a
Norm.
name. Yeah, you have the name on their stools, bar stools. And I like that kind of feeling. Like, as soon as I sit there, I don't have to go to the counter to kind of order the coffee. They'll bring it to me, and they, because
Right.
I'm a regular. And so
Yeah.
you're a regular, and the Sunday draft. You're not going to serve coffee or whiskey right now, but but you have a regular seat at the bar.
Goals.
Yeah, you have a regular
Well,
seat
that's
at
good to
the.
know.
Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah, I look forward to it.
yeah. So well, thank you so much for jumping in from Italy. Right? I've never been interviewed from anybody from Italy, so that's a new thing. I've never been. Yeah. So
I guess that will be my my caveat for regular appearances. Is it's always going to have to be time zone dependent because doing
yeah,
this at 2 o'clock in the morning might not be the best thing for me, right?
yeah. I mean, I was afraid, and I'm so glad our time zones kind of matched today, right? Because, like I said, Kanti's getting, hopefully he's getting better. Hopefully he was watching, but he'll be back next week. But I just want to give a shout out to Kanti, who should have been here. He wasn't here, but without him, this Sunday draft will not have happened. We would not have been able to take off. He brings a lot of value. Again, like I said, he's a former journalist. He's got a lot of experience with the UN, working for the WHO. I am
It's
learning so
invaluable.
much, invaluable, right? Because I'm just one of those guys who's trying to learn from everybody. And to be able to pair with somebody like that is just kind of, I never expected it. So I'm so glad that he's there, and I hope I'm well and get well soon. And next week you'll see him. Until then, follow the Sunday Draft. We are on YouTube. We are on Substack at the Sunday Draft. We bring new episodes every week. And maybe, we're grappling, just trying to debate on whether we should go live every week, because I like the live format.
Yeah.
But it takes a bit of getting used to. But every time you go live, you learn, you kind of become a little more confident.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
didn't. That one kind of broke up on me. I didn't really hear what you said there, but
I was saying,
happy to help where I can.
I was saying every time you go live with an episode, it really kind of helps you grow a little faster in this kind of video format. But every Sunday we want to be able to go live and bring these stories. So to the audience who's
Well, I
listening,
look.
please follow us. Please subscribe to us.
Yeah, I look forward to more, and hopefully, I'll talk to you again soon.
Thank you, and enjoy your brief stay in Italy, and then where are you going next after that? You're crossing Italy, and you're.
We're heading back to the U.S. So for
Oh,
a
you're
little
coming back
while,
to this. Okay. Well, you didn't
yeah,
say anything.
we're
Anything that would.
undetermined for a few months after that. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, yeah, and this episode should be fine. It shouldn't ding you at the airport. So, no, but thank you, and I look forward to talking to
Sure.
you soon. And to everybody who's listening, thank you again for listening. Please follow us.
All right.
Bye,
Bye.
Alicia. Bye. Bye.